How does where you come from influence you? This is a question I think about often, both in my personal life and in my research. My name is Emily Dombrowski, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Vermont. I study marine sciences, but I actually grew up landlocked in the Chicago suburbs with my mother and sister. While we weren't close to nature, my mother was deeply interested in conservation. She taught my sister and me to love the world around us. She'd take us downtown to the aquarium, or even keep us out of school to plant trees on Earth Day. Her influence sparked my initial interest in climate change. When I grew older, I ended up at the College of Charleston studying biology. I was ultimately drawn further in by my undergraduate research advisor, Dr. Jody Beers. When I first met Jody, she described her research on a sea trout infected by a parasite. This parasite actually made the fish swim faster in short bursts. She was studying this single interaction in the context of climate change. This inspired me to join her lab and study ecological physiology. I could now take the worldview of environmental appreciation my mom taught me and apply it to a scientific process. Eventually, I became interested in questions involving more factors. I studied a variety of organisms, from horseshoe crabs to invasive green crabs, and their relationship with their environment. This interest in marine invertebrates ultimately brought me to the University of Vermont, where I continue to study invasive mussels in the context of climate change. I study a system of mussels in Australia, where invasive mussels have been introduced from the Mediterranean. Essentially, global shipping has brought these mussels across the oceans, and as ships take up and let out harbor water to stabilize themselves, mussels from the warmer Mediterranean have been introduced to cooler southern Australian waters. Instead of the Mediterranean mussels outcompeting the Australian mussels, these two species can actually reproduce and create successful offspring. These mussel hybrids can withstand warmer temperatures than either of the parental species. To learn more about this perplexing relationship, I traveled to Australia to collect mussels and raise their larval offspring. Working at the Queenscliff Marine Centre, I had hybrid mussels reproduce in the lab. I created multiple mussel families and raised their larval offspring at two temperatures. One that matches projected climate change conditions, and one that matches modern conditions. 3 times a week, I would strain my larval mussels through a series of screens. They were so tiny they were barely discernible to the human eye. I would then bring them to a microscope to ensure that they were doing well. Finally, I traveled to the University of Queensland and extracted DNA samples from both the adults and the larvae to ship off for sequencing. While I wait for the data from this project to come back, I reflect on how my own upbringing made me the person I am today. My family taught me to love and be curious about the world around me. My life changed when I went to college and learned how to apply my curiosity to biological systems in the context of climate change. With my research, I hope to see how hybrid mussels are influenced by their hybrid ancestry and how they will continue to change in new conditions.